Welcome to the Spent the Rent podcast. I am your host, Patty Rose. My guest today is the athletic director from the South Lane School District, Garrett Bridgens. Garrett, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we are here today to talk about an endowment fund created in honor of your late wife, Heather, who passed away from cancer April 8th, that is designed to help every kid in Cottage Grove play organized sports. So we'll explain what that means. First of all, thank you for joining us, and thank you for being so willing to share your family story. This is a very difficult topic. You were a customer in the barbershop and told me about your situation, and I was like, this is exactly why I do what I do with the podcast. And so I knew I wanted to have you on as a guest. And so again, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me and for this opportunity. Really grateful, and not an easy story to tell, but an important one, and hopefully one that's going to have a lasting legacy for not only, my wife, but for our community of Cottage Grove and helping kids.
Yeah, this is really huge. So we're going to talk a lot today about you and your wife and the work that you do. I had mentioned that you are the athletic director for the South Lane School District, which now, does that cover K through 12?
I'm the Cottage Grove High School athletic director. Okay. Absolutely. I'm working with all of our, our middle school programs and our youth organizations. We're a small enough community that allows me to do that. And it's really important that we do that because we want to have kind of a K-12 athletic system where we're supporting all kids and making sure our systems are working for everyone. So yeah, it's not technically South, the entire district, but it is because.
Oh, okay. So it's actually Cottage Grove High School. Okay. So,
yeah, but like I said, it's all good.
Yeah. So yeah, and Cottage Grove has some great things going on as far as youth sports. Period. Like the baseball field that I went to, because my girlfriend's nephew is playing baseball. Her sister and her brother-in-law coach in Cottage Grove. I think we had talked about that off air. Yeah. So we love going into their games, and I think he's in like 4th grade, and so it's pretty. His football games, he's intense. He's this little tiny guy. He had a touchdown pass, which is huge in that level of football.
That's amazing.
Usually it's all runs.
Right.
So we're here today to talk about Heather. Before we go deep into the endowment, let's talk about Heather. Heather was an athlete, coach, and educator who grew up in Cottage Grove. And everything that I've read so far, the word that most embodied her spirit was kindness. I read that her motto was actually choose kindness. Can you tell me a little bit about her?
Yeah, I don't even know really where to begin other than amazing human being who, was an incredible leader in our community, but everything was around kindness and empathy and but also high expectations and, trying to see the best in everyone. And but yeah, she grew up here in Cottage Grove, went to elementary school as did I. We went to the same elementary school. We were about 6 years in difference in age, so we didn't go through the system together. But she grew up in Cottage Grove. Swam. She was a big time swimmer for Cottage Grove High School. And if you know Cottage Grove swimming, you know the name Bud Taylor. He's kind of a legendary swim coach in the area, in the state. And so she swam for Bud and went on to swim in college at Linfield College. And then her dad was a teacher. Her mom worked in the school systems, and she went and got her teaching degree and came back and started teaching language arts at Cottage Grove High School, and eventually got her administrative license and became a school administrator. And she was up until the point where she got sick, she was the principal at Bohemia Elementary School here in town. Yeah, she's just been, and we can talk more about this, but just, for her and I, like coming back, because I graduated from Cottage Grove High School too, like coming back and working in our community, like, this was the place where we wanted to raise our family and continue those amazing experiences that we had as kids ourselves, and helping other families here in Cottage Grove and our own kids. So we're really happy that we chose Cottage Grove.
Yeah. And I'm going to talk a lot today about the website. So again, this is the Heather Cunningham Bridgens Fund, and the website is HCB FUND.org. So on there's kind of a lengthy description of the work that she has done in the Cottage Grove community with youth sports primarily. Because this is, like I said, it's an endowment that is going to basically, the goal is so that down the road, if you meet your goals, every student in the Cottage Grove youth sports programs can play for free. And we'll talk about that a little bit in a bit. But yeah, you had just mentioned that you both had roots in Cottage Grove. You went to college in New Hampshire. Is that correct?
I didn't go to, I went out there and worked.
Okay.
I ran track and field at a school in California for a year. And I was a hurdler, and I got done with my sophomore year of running track. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. My legs were tired at that point and beat up. So I came home and I finished out at the University of Oregon. So I'm a Duck.
Nice.
Through and through. But yeah, I went out and worked after college in New Hampshire. And then I came home, and, a little quick backstory. My brother's a teacher. My dad was a middle school counselor. My mom was a language arts teacher. And I had vowed, I was like, I'm not going to be in education. I'm going to go do something else. Right. Well, I came home from working in New Hampshire, and I was like, I need something to do. And I was really passionate about coaching. So I started coaching, and needed to figure out kind of what I wanted to do next and what I was going to do, for life, really. And I started doing some substitute teaching, and realized I want to be in the classroom. I was like, okay, I'm going to go the family way, and I'm going to go there. And this brings me kind of around to like how I met Heather and reconnected with Heather, because Heather and I grew up in the same church, and we knew each other, and our families knew each other. But I came home from New Hampshire and started substitute teaching at Cottage Grove High School, where she was working. And my brother was a social studies teacher at the high school. And back when they were teaching, they would do like 9th grade language arts and social studies in a block. So they had they would team teach with each other. So my brother and Heather were teaching 9th grade language arts and social studies. So whenever my brother needed a substitute, he would book me as one of his subs. And so I'd go start working in the classroom as a sub, and really started to get to know Heather that way. And then finally got up the courage one day to see if she would go have a drink with me or go out on a date with me. And kind of the rest was history from there. We were pretty inseparable after that.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, like you said, you were 6 years different. So as growing up, she's a kid. But then as you become adults, it's like the ages change. It's like you catch up. And so then, so I mean, that's what I read the article, which is really good, on the website, written by the Chronicle. Shout out to the Chronicle, by the way, covering, Springfield, Cottage Grove, and Cresswell. It's a great paper, and it's $40 a year if you'd like to subscribe. So definitely do that, locals. But yeah, I read that article, and they talked about that, kind of like the way that you guys reconnected, and then how it, became a relationship. And then in 2007, you were married, and now you have 4 kids, which that is what makes this story that much more challenging, because 4 kids, usually dads don't do anything. No, I'm just joking. That's terrible. That's terrible. So all jokes aside, this is really serious, but when did you find out that Heather was sick, and how did that process come to be?
Yeah. And just a little quick about my kids. I've got a 9-year-old girl, 12 and 13-year-old boys. And then we have a 24-year-old daughter, that she came to live with us in 2015. She had some things going on in her life. She was a student at our school, and she had babysat for us, and had some things going on in her life. And so she came to live with us in 2015, and, graduated high school, went on to Oregon State University, which was really weird because Heather and I were both Ducks, but, we supported her. And,
it's a good school.
Right. No, it's an amazing school. I'm just teasing out there. But anyway, so she came to be a part of our life. But in 2016, in May of 2016, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. It was, I think, stage 3 at that point, when they diagnosed her. But she went through, chemo, double mastectomy, radiation, everything. Did everything, she was supposed to do with all of that, and was cancer-free and clear, and doing fine, and living her life, and, being an elementary principal, and being a mom, and, all those things, right? We had our family, we're doing our thing. And then 2021, April, we were on a spring break. We did our big family spring break trip. It was kind of coming out of the pandemic, so it was like really exciting. We went out and traveled, did a family trip. And then about 2 weeks after that, we were at her sister's house, and all of a sudden she had a little bit of like blurriness in her right eye. It felt like there was almost like just something wasn't right there. It just kind of happened instantly. And then she started feeling some numbness that evening, and she's like, my face is a little numb, and my hand's a little numb. And So we took her to the emergency room because we felt like maybe she was having a stroke or something was going on.
Sure.
And so ended up in the hospital and scans, and they discovered that the cancer had returned and manifested in her spine and brain. And what they told us at that point was, if you do nothing, you've got about 3 months. It was just like out of nowhere.
Wow.
We were able to, we talked to doctors across the country. We were talking to, doctors in Boston and doctors in Portland and in Texas. And we came up with a treatment plan for her. And, it was some immunotherapy and some radiation and some other things. And, but it was always at the point which just they weren't confident we were going to be able to do anything to really turn things around for her. So about a year later is when we lost her. I could go into all the details of it, but that's just kind of our.
So 2016 is when she was originally first diagnosed.
Yeah.
And then was in the clear. So by what, like maybe 2 years that after that, 2018 roughly. So there's a 3-year patch where it was almost like I'm a survivor. That's a thing of the past.
Yeah.
And then it resurfaced in 2021.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, we were doing all of her checkups, all those things, the blood work. It was just like, it just kind of came out of nowhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now the kids, I mean, how did the children respond to her being sick, first of all? And then ultimately, how have they kind of dealt with her passing?
Yeah. I mean, just think with any of that sort of thing, like the anxiety is always up here. Right. And, it's just been a lot of anxiety field worries that my kids would have, and I would have, and she would have. I mean, it was hard. It was really, really hard. Living your life and doing all those things and the roller coasters of the first diagnosis and all of those worries. I mean, my youngest, she was, only 2 at the time when she was diagnosed the first time. She doesn't really have a recollection of that, but my boys, absolutely. And super hard. So yeah, it's just
it's a void. Yeah. I mean, it's just,
and I think anybody that, and just in terms of how we're dealing with it now, and I think anybody is experiencing grief, you understand that you like to say, people come up, how you guys are doing. And it's like the common answer, oh, we're doing okay. Right. But anybody that's experiencing grief knows that it's this roller coaster, right? And it comes out of nowhere. Some days you have good days and bad days, and, but we're doing okay. And, trying to live life. And that was, I was fortunate. Some people don't get this opportunity to talk to your wife about, things that are going to happen in the future. And so, this idea that we have to move on, we have to live life, we have to find joy wherever we can. And, and I'm trying to continue to live, her way of life of empathy and kindness and all of those things. Right. And instill those in my kids as well as we.
That's why this story resonated so much with me, because in 2012, I lost my mom, and it was sudden, but my mom had a long struggle with depression, very different person than Heather, I mean, I think outwardly she was so kind and so generous and thoughtful, but inwardly she was really, really tortured by a lot of trauma and different things. Unfortunately, many women are, from childhood abuse and things like that. But when I lost her, one of the things that I always knew is I was going to carry on her legacy of kindness. And that's why this story resonated so much with me, and why I wanted to have you on, and for my empathy towards the kids and to you, because I know how hard it was losing my mom at 30. I can't imagine losing, a mom at 8 or whatever, I mean, it's got to be the most difficult thing. The most, when you have a family support system, which I've met you and your kids in person in the barbershop, smiles. I mean, you're living your life, and the being there for each other. I know that you being there for them, but they are there for you. And it's just amazing, and I'm sure that when you look at them and you see her, that carries a lot of weight, to push through. And this is a beautiful thing that you're doing, because, instead of, you can't have idle hands, right? Like, you have to stay busy. You have to actually put that, when I said to live their legacy, you have to put that into action. And that's why that's what you're doing. And so, I want to say, before we move on and talk more in depth about the fund itself, I want to say, talk about, like, what area of support has been the most beneficial?
Yeah. Well, I just want to back up really quick too, just and talk about like how we're doing, right? This is still like in the scope of everything.
Sure.
We're almost at 5 months now. And so
Right.
we're still really figuring things out and grieving and all of those things. And so it's not easy. And
That's
the hard
true. This is really fresh. Yeah. I mean, it was
feel
April.
really fresh and
Yeah.
like think that we're doing okay. Yeah, we are doing okay, but but we're not.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure it out every day. And being the single parent now and like trying to figure that all out. And
Yeah.
your kids, like my kids are amazing, and you're exactly right. They support me just as much as I'm trying to support them, and
Yeah.
huge. And kind of coming back to your question of what does that support look like? Well, I'm extremely fortunate. Heather's family lives here in Cottage Grove, her sister and her mom and dad, and they're amazing family and still very much involved in my everyday life and supporting the kids, and that's not going to change. And then both my parents live here in town and they're involved, and my brothers live locally. So I'm so fortunate to have the support I do around me. And then just kind of taking it into a bigger level is the community of Cottage Grove. Like, we chose to live here for a reason, and the support from the community here is incredible. It's this loss is a real personal thing, right? But people know about it and are always coming up and trying to figure out ways to support me or the kids. And so, like, I am blessed and fortunate to have my parents, Heather's parents, and then just to live in Cottage Grove. Like, it's a really an amazing town. And a lot of people in this town are just filled with kindness and empathy and want what's best for my kids and all kids here and families. So I'm fortunate.
That's the cool thing about being involved in the education world, is that it really it gives you a real sense of community, unlike almost anything. I mean, anything at least in the public area. This last 2 years, I mean, I can't imagine what your family went through in 2021 for this to hit, because these last 2 years, I mean, there's been a lot of loss. And I know that it never gets easier, but I wonder if all the COVID stuff and all that stuff made it more easier for the kids to put perspective on it, because and time will tell, you know what I'm saying? Because like you said, it's so fresh, but because we're constantly talking about loss. And I think that not that there's any silver lining, there's not, but I think that there is this sense of an understanding of loss and death more than we used to have, because we had this just illusion like that you're going to get your 75 to 85 years, and all the, and it is never true, like there's cancer's not new, but I wonder, because I know a lot. I mean, I did a podcast episode with a friend of mine who lost her dad to COVID, pre-vaccine, pre-prevent, pre-masks, and so
Well,
so much loss.
I think my kids and all kids, I mean, they've had to grow up real quick with a lot of really heavy things, right? So yeah, I think you're exactly right. It's hard, but it's out there, and you have to talk about it and acknowledge it and all of those things.
I just think sometimes it's nice to know that you're not alone. You know what I mean? And so that when there's people that are dealing with maybe different situations,
there
is a sense of calming when it's like, okay, well, we're one of those families now that has to face this, because we knew that this is something that people deal with, and we care about everybody, but now that's us, and it's our time to step up and be there for each other. And so, I cannot imagine being that young and having to go through that. I mean, So now, again, we're here to talk about the fund. And so what you had done is you created an endowment. Did this start after her passing, or was this something that she was actually working on before?
What you need to know about Heather is, like, she was on top of like everything. I mean, that's what made her so remarkable, is like, she was amazing at her job, but she was just organized and had a plan and wanted to figure things out, and just was, had it all, dialed in with things. So she was actually really involved with the endowment before she passed, and kind of setting it up and what we wanted it to look like. And, when we first started talking about this, it was about, we had talked about, well, maybe we set up a scholarship in her name and we, have some money set aside that we can then give a scholarship to a student every year, which is amazing. And hopefully we can do something like that too. But we just started talking about, well, how could we have even a bigger impact? And we started just brainstorming different ideas around it. And, she was a high school swim coach at Cottage Grove High School. And like I said, she was an athlete here. And I was a coach for 17 years here at Cottage Grove High School. So we started thinking about extracurricular activities and not just sports like theater and band and all of those things. And how could we have an impact? And so we started thinking about participation fees and what it costs to play a sport. And not only that, like paying that participation fee, but if anybody out there knows, like when you play sport, whether it's baseball or other sports, there's other costs involved, right?
Yeah.
So we just started thinking about what ways we could, if we could eliminate the participation fee, what would that do for a family? And so we came up with the idea of the endowment. Like, let's try to raise enough money so that this endowment can make playing sports free for kids in Cottage Grove. So the family doesn't have to worry about that part. That participation fee is just taken care of and it's out of the way. And then, if they need money for other things, or if they need support to try to get other things to play the sports with equipment or whatever else that they need, then they would have some extra money for that. So she was involved. She helped get it set up. She helped brainstorm it all. And this was like towards the end. I mean,
Wow. I did not realize that these are conversations. And I think about this, April, we're talking 5 months, like you said.
Yeah.
I did not realize that these are conversations you had with her. That is beautiful. That she knew that this was going to be her legacy after she was gone. That's a beautiful thing. So yeah. So what were those conversations like? I mean, that's got to be difficult. But again, that idle hands, like staying busy is wow.
Yeah, we had a lot of really hard conversations. But her mom was involved with our conversations. We reached out to other people in the community to figure out how it all worked and we could get it to go. And, she approved of everything that we had set up, and that felt really good, and it felt good to her too, to know that we had it all ready to go, that it was going to be all set up and she didn't have to worry about that. Yeah, pretty remarkable, because like even towards the end there, she was still just like thinking about how she could help kids and help people in the community, which, that's who Heather was.
So the goal is to have every kid in the South Lane School District. Now that would be K through 12, or is it just high school still?
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. So right now, South Lane School District, kids can sign up like middle school through high school for sports. Like they have all the middle school sports, and those, when a kid signs up, it goes through South Lane School District. And that's all the way through high school. And then there are other organizations here in town. Like there's, I'm going to screw it up. South Valley Baseball, and then South Valley Athletics. Like they're different organizations, but they're set up and they support our kids in Cottage Grove, and they do a remarkable job, but they're separate from the school district. So our hope with the endowment is that we raise enough money, and we're going to start wherever we can. So the money gets invested into the Oregon Community Foundation. And it gets invested there, and then we'll see a return every year on the interest. So we'll get a chunk of money back every year that we can figure out how we want to apply it to something. So it'll start small because we're trying to raise enough money, and then it'll grow over time, right? But we're going to figure out whether that's starting with one sport at the middle school or one grade level at the middle school. That's where we're going to start, and then we're going to build from there. So our goal, it'll go kind of 6 through 12. And once we get 6 through 12 taken care of, then we'll start reaching out to those other organizations and supporting them in every way we can. So that's the hope of the endowment and how it will work.
And so this is really fresh. I mean, like we had said, so if people are interested, they can go to HCB FUND, so HCBFund.org, and donate. And then, yeah, I mean, once, that's how the endowments work. Once there's a big enough pot, then the interest will then cover it every year. And I mean, this is going to be life's work for you. I mean, it's going to be every year, every month, there's going to be events and different things. And so, I mean, I'd like to help any way I can. I mean, maybe down the road, anytime you have events, reach out to me, and I'd love to help you get the word out. That's another thing I want to ask about. What have been some ways that you've been able to get the word out?
Yeah. So can I share too, kind of where we're at with so far? So we started in April, right after she passed away. We started in April with the fundraising, and I just learned yesterday. I called the Cottage Grove Community Foundation, who's helping us with the, connecting with Oregon Community Foundation. But they updated me on where we're at. We're at $84,000 that we've raised, which is incredible. We've raised $84,000. Our goal is to raise $100,000 in the first year. And then the goal after that is to raise $50,000 every year after that. And so I think we're on target. We're on track to try to do that. How have we been doing some of the fundraising? So the first part's just been, we created the website, through social media and people just out there donating to that. But just kind of speaking to what is amazing about our community, there's been like our high schoolers last year, for example, in this, at the end of the school year, they wanted to hold a volleyball contest with high school students, and they just made all the proceeds go to the fund. Which was amazing. So it was like another $800 there, which is incredible.
Yeah.
South Valley Athletics, they're going to hold a 3-on-3 basketball tournament on September 10th here at Cottage Grove High School. And all the proceeds from that are going to go to Heather's fund. Heather's being inducted into the Cottage Grove Athletics Hall of Fame this October. And part of the evening is going to be a fundraiser for the fund for that. So those are some of the ways that we, are planning to do some of the fundraising and like with the website, have already done our fundraising for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, those events just have to be touching, when you're like, oh my gosh, all these people that are coming together. Cause I mean, that's gotta be awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's huge. $80,000 since April, and I mean, you started it. When was the actual launching of it? Technically, like April, May, basically.
It was right after she passed. Really, we had it set up and ready to go, like end of March, April, or first part of April, and then she passed on April 8th. So it was kind of just in place, and then people were able to donate right away to it.
And the money when you donate goes directly to the fund. It's not. This isn't. I'm not trying to not GoFundMe, but this isn't a GoFundMe. Like this is right. So this is an actual fund, and you can see the transparency from the website. I mean, for anybody that wants to look, again, I'm going to say it a bunch. HCBFUND.org is where you would donate, and I mean, there's a lot of stories and pictures of Heather and stories from students and people that she's touched over the years. So, I mean, Garrett, this is really cool, and I mean, it's something that it's a remarkable story, and it's a remarkable story of resilience. And like you said, this is the beginning. I know that the holidays are really difficult. Mother's Day is really challenging for me. I have a stepmom, and that is good, but it also has weirdness when I not having my mom, and because I'm like, I want to make it's not about me, Mother's Day, it's about her. And so I reach out to my stepmom, and then when I hang up, I'm like, I love her so much, but it hurts not having my mom, and
I mean, we've already hit some milestones, like, our birthdays all happened since, she passed away, and all of those things are just really hard. One of the things that was really cool, just a little side story, but like Heather and I loved music. Like when we first got together, we went to concerts like that. We just loved going like to music concerts. Every summer we'd figure out different concerts to go to. And we always said we wanted to take our kids to concerts and get them to have that experience and love music and all of these things. And so after she passed, one of our favorite groups was Coldplay. So I was like, we're going to go to a Coldplay concert. So it was like a month after she passed away, but we all got on an airplane and flew down to Santa Clara, San Francisco area, and saw Coldplay in concert with the kids. And then we're like, the kids loved it, and they're like, let's keep going to concerts. So we've gone to like 4 concerts over the last 2 months. We saw Coldplay, a group called AJR. I'm not sure if you know who AJR is. And then Jason Mraz and the Lumineers, all in the course of 2 months. But like going, like they say, music like heals the soul, right? Like just being there with my kids at those concerts, experiencing the music that Heather and I both loved, like super cool. So like, you talked about milestones and doing those things and trying to live life and going out and, having those experiences with my kids have been really good for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. We have a comment from our audience. It's from Pocket Zeus Media, which is actually one of my sponsors. Dave, he says, love that. There's something about people who are able to think about making the future better. Cool to hear who Heather was or is. Someone is so organized in that way. What a great business model for the situation. What an awesome program and purpose. So touching, and concerts are so powerful and healing for sure. So he's a keyboard warrior, dropping comment after comment. Shout out to Pocket Zeus Media. Yeah, thank you so much for watching it and for leaving your comment. Yeah, so I mean, again, we're gonna get out of here soon, but I want to make sure everyone knows. Go to hcbfund.org. Read more about the story about Heather Cunningham Bridgens. You know, $84,000 in 4 or 5 months. That's incredible. I'm really proud of the work you're doing, Garrett.
Thank you.
This is really cool. And thank you so much. I mean, it was for coming on. I mean, it was really cool to talk to you and when I heard this, I was just like, that's a no-brainer. And we made this happen quick. We talked about this like a week ago, you know. So.
I know. Well, and I just want to say a testament to you and the show and everything you do and your platform. Just like, thank you. Like, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the work that you do to tell everybody's stories. We appreciate it. You know, Heather's family, who's really involved in the fund too. They're just really grateful for the opportunity to come on anywhere we can. We want to tell Heather's story. We want to tell the story of the fund and the mission and the goal for that. And just being able to support kids in Cottage Grove. Like, we want access. That's what it's about, right? We want kids to have access to extracurricular activities because we know the doors that can open for kids, the experience that you get, the statistics behind kids who are involved in things in school. You know, they better grades and they're better attendance and better graduation rate. And so it's like, we want just kids to have that access, right? And that's what the fund is set up to do, is to help provide access for kids.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so important. I played organized sports as a kid, and it was my favorite times of life. I didn't play in high school, and you know, that's a whole different. I mean, I kind of wish I did in some ways, but I didn't because my brother had such a horrible experience in high school sports. But when you have a good, supportive group of people that are doing it for the right reasons, then it's not that, you know, and it's really rewarding. So like that volleyball team that stepped up and they were raising money and they don't even want anything from it. They're putting in all this work and then they're like, there you go, you know, and so awesome. So cool to see people come together and support each other in the community. And thank you for saying about my platform. That's what I try to do. Stories of the underrepresented of Lane County. There's very, very little money exchanged. I guess if you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can go to strpod.com. And donate to me. But for this episode, I'd rather that you go directly to the hcbfund.org and donate to the Heather Cunningham Bridgens Fund. And so we're going to get out of here. Garrett, thank you so much for everything you're doing. Have a good day.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.